doo-doo, doo-doo. That's the angle.
Ooh, what?
Doo-doo. That's the podcast.
No offense, it's a beautiful space.
No, you got me. I mean, it's completely ironic because if you saw my last podcast, the background was terrorist.
Oh, really? I didn't want. The last one was that with Marta.
The last couple was all terrorists and everything.
With terrorists?
Oh, sorry, the artwork on the wall had like Soleimani, and it had.
Oh, really?
Like
okay.
Someone behind you. It was. I think they had. I forget that guy's name. Just another terrorist. Like the guy, the artist, his inspiration was like the Middle East and all this stuff because of his heritage, and then that's what it was.
No, interesting.
Yeah.
Fitting.
Yeah, very fitting. You know?
Are we recording?
Oh, of course, man. Of course.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I mean, if I sit down, you know.
I just want to make sure because there are some people who just start recording right away. There's no little bit of warm up. You just jump right into it, and you got to be careful what you say at the start.
Oh no! I can always edit all that good stuff out. God damn, your voice sounds good over the microphone.
All right.
Yeah,
well.
you weren't lying. You weren't loud as shit. Jesus, I might have to turn on the headphone mix a little bit.
So it sounds good to me, and you're just coming in clear here. So
yeah, you're good. It's all good. But
as long as I'm not peaking.
No, actually, with these microphones, it's really hard to peak unless I'm really pushing the levels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But what's up, guys? Welcome back to That's the Angle, and I am honored to be joined here with Chris Suspect.
Hello.
What's up, man?
Excited to be here.
But I'm excited to have you here, man, because I feel like you have been reoccurring in my life for the past few years, so it's cool to have you on.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah,
and
like your
in
work,
what way?
Your work has showed up. Like it just, I love. We'll get into it, but like the vulgarity of your work, but not just that. Like when I even started this podcast, one of my early guests, he had showed me your work, like your page, and I was like, damn, that's so cool. And I think his name was Mike Miskoviak. He's like a landscape photographer. I don't know. But I remember him bringing up your work, and I was like, damn, that's really cool. I hope I can talk to him one day. And then a couple months ago at the Lowbrow exhibition,
Oh, yeah.
your work was the cross with all the black and white debaucherous photos on it. And I didn't actually even put it together until I was doing a little bit of light research on you before this podcast. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, that was Chris again. Of course that was him. So it's just so cool to have you on here, like just talk about everything, man.
Yeah, I'm glad you saw that, the lowbrow thing. I was glad I could put that piece together for it. I like the I don't know if people know Mike O'Brien out there. I don't know. Have you had him on this show?
I'm in talks with having him on.
Oh, okay. So yeah, he's a great artist himself, but he's also a great champion of artists in DC of all kinds. And I'm fortunate enough that he comes to me occasionally to be included in some of his group shows. And what's nice is that he really has no limits as to what you can do. So I'm free to let my twisted imagination run wild. So I can put up upside down crosses with gay BDSM scenes on it. So
yeah, there were some big old dildos on that thing. Some big veiny dildos. I remember I was making like a YouTube video of that exhibition, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna get me demonetized." Like even in the thumbnail, I had like used the one clip I had of that piece, and I was like. And then on the thumbnail, I put, this might get me demonetized.
Perfect.
It didn't, though, so that works. I made like $1 from that video. So what can I say?
Well, I guess the algorithm didn't pick up that, so that's good.
Yeah, I'm glad the algorithm can't detect veiny dicks. That's great.
I think, yeah, it's really weird sometimes. Not that I post those kinds of pictures online, but several people in my Instagram feed do, and they usually put like a little star. But there's some things that you can kind of get away with it, and I think it might know the difference between a dildo and a penis.
Instagram or YouTube?
Instagram, at least. I don't know about YouTube. I would assume they might as well. Maybe they don't search the thumbnails. Who knows?
Dude, you must hate Instagram with the amount of censorship and the work you do.
I don't really post anything like that on Instagram, and honestly, the work I do, I don't really consider it's challenging in that level where it's sort of it's kind of by designed to like scratch the lizard part of your brain.
Definitely does.
But if you actually sat and described the photo to somebody without them seeing it, I don't know if it would come across the same way. I don't think it would come across as gratuitous, if you will.
Yeah, I mean that's a big fact, man. I mean, It's funny because if you do any amount of look into your work, it's not all of this what's on Instagram. Like a majority of your work isn't just black and white debaucherous shit.
No.
But that's what's most alluring and appealing about what you do.
So yeah, that's like Instagram is a project that I started a long time ago, looking into just kind of like the party lives of millennials, and it basically became an offshoot. I was shooting the DC punk rock scene for a long time. And then I was, there would always be these parties afterwards and stuff, and I'd go to them. And then I'd just see some crazy stuff. And then I just started, enjoying those photos just as much as the punk rock photos. And so I just kind of started putting myself into those situations, or even trying to create situations like that. And so I would do weird stuff in terms of like, oh, there's like a furry convention in Baltimore. I'm gonna go shoot that.
You shot that?
No, but that was one thing I wanted to do, but it keeps coming. I keep kicking myself for not actually doing that.
Some butt plugs with
but I do. But I do go to Mid-Atlantic Leather Fest, and I've been doing that for like 7 years.
What is Mid-Atlantic Leather Fest?
That is basically your gay leather scene, S&M, bondage.
Whoa.
It's pretty intense, and you don't really see those photos on Instagram. But I'm going to be putting out a book of that.
That sounds like the best place to put that.
Put what?
Those photos. Like it seems like the only place we have left to put raunchy and as debaucherous photos as we want is in a book somewhere, like a printed book.
Yeah, it's true. There's there are places online, but I find that a lot of those places, they're more they're not into, I guess, the artness of it. They're into just the debauchery,
the sexuality
of it. And that's really not, there's some of that is in there, obviously, but that's not really what I'm going for. I'm not trying to find like the hottest girl to get naked. I want to be in an environment where people are kind of cutting loose, and it doesn't matter to me like how good they look or whatever. It's more about kind of capturing the scene and making images that kind of spark your imagination. I don't really have any images that show any genitalia. I don't take those for myself, it's because that sort of kind of gives it away. It's like if you're alluding to that sort of thing, people's brains will kind of go there. That's why I said earlier, if you take one of my photos and just literally describe it, it won't sound that bad. But then when you look at it, your imagination kind of goes it brings it to places where the photo is not really sane. So.
It really does. Your work really brings you to a place like, what the heck kind of stuff is this guy into? Like, how did he find himself in this underbelly of leather daddies and stuff like that? Like, it's so fascinating and niche that you're even in those situations. And the fact that they're even comfortable with you being there with a camera.
Yeah, it's kind of, I try to be a nice guy, and, if someone says, hey, don't shoot, I won't. But usually, if I'm there and I'm usually just hanging out, I don't come in just like firing off the camera. But
they know you're there. Like, do they invite you? Like, how does that work?
I just show up usually. But then I'll see what's going on, and something interesting may happen where I'm like, I have to get that photo kind of thing. And so I'll do it, and they'll be like, what are you doing? And I'll be like, what you were doing was hilarious, or that was really cool. And I'll tell them exactly why I take the photo. So oftentimes they're totally down with it. Other times they might think I'm really kind of crazy. But they usually leave me alone. And then occasionally you get people that just want to be exhibitionists and want you to shoot them. But it is extremely rare when somebody gets upset.
That's interesting. It makes sense, because if you're in such an environment where it's so free that you're like, oh, who cares if we take a photo? But I imagine that some of these people must have things they don't want said or shown or anything. But
everyone else is also, has their cell phones and is taking video of stuff.
That's so true.
You cannot escape it in this world. People get uptight about getting their photos taken on the street, but you know what? You're already covered by 3 different angles, by 3 different CCTV type cameras on the corners. Yeah. It's like, I'm the least of your worries.
Well, it's like the dynamic changes when you have a professional camera. Like, I don't know what your setup looks like. Are you a Sony guy?
No. Yeah, I had a Sony hat on there. No, I use a Leica.
Oh, nice.
And I use
taste.
And I use a Japanese camera, a Ricoh, called a GR2 model.
I've heard of a Ricoh, but I don't know what a GR2 is.
It's really small. Black camera.
Like a point and shoot?
It's basically a point and shoot, but it's kind of a point and shoot on steroids. The quality is really, really good.
Is it film?
And no, it's digital, and you can do all kinds of stuff with it. And it's got this the GR2 model, not the new GR3, but the GR2 has a little pop-up flash, and it's just great. And no one takes that thing seriously at all. And most people are like, if they see the Leica, they also use for most of those black and white photos a 28 millimeter German Voigtlander lens, which is really unique looking too. So that adds kind of a novelty. They're like, what kind of camera is that?
It's like it's like less intimidating than some giant DSLR setup.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think, plus those things get heavy, and they're not, as fast as those folks say those DSLRs are. They're nowhere near as fast as once you learn actually how to manually use a Leica. Or manually set up the Ricoh.
So you're manually using your camera in these environments?
Yeah, and with flash too as well.
Like ring focusing or focusing, like doing the focus, all the settings and everything, all manual. Yep. Whoa! But I mean, I guess at a certain point, it does. Like once you figure out the lighting, it's really not that different.
Well, you don't have to worry about lighting when you're using flash. The only thing you really need to worry about, there's really two things. One is your focal distance, so who you're shooting is in focus. And that can be, in the way I set it up, it's like I can basically switch it to two places, either like super close, so I know if you're like 5 feet or in to me, everything will be in focus, or around 7 feet, where if you're like 3 feet to 12 feet, you'll be in focus.
So you just know, you're just like...
It's called zone focusing. And then I use a full flash, full manual, and the way to kind of adjust the lighting where you have control is then controlling your aperture, really. So I like to shoot at f11 because it means most of that stuff is in focus. But if something's farther away and I want to capture a big scene, I'll lower the aperture down to 2.8 if I want to capture like a big room with hundreds of people. I can do that.
Yeah, because you're in some real dark, crusty environments, I feel like. Just looking at your photos, like you're in some environments where it's like, damn, I'd feel so awkward even having a camera with a flash in my hands. But you must have like the biggest cojones to be there and be like, what's up? I'm enjoying, but also,
Yeah. You just got to, you want to be, a lot of people like have this thing like, you got to be a fly on the wall type of thing. And that's really not me. It's like I'm there partying with these people, drinking just as much as they are, having a good time. And when they see that's happening, they're like, oh yeah, he's just a photographer, dude. It's cool. It's not like I'm kind of being an outsider.
That's the real shit though. Like when you actually are involved and you're a part of the action, like the trust level goes up, the quality of your content comes up. All of a sudden, like you're as interesting as everyone else and people start wanting to like show out for you and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, and if you go to one of these Mid-Atlantic leather convention things,
please. Tell me about how you approach it. I'm so curious.
And you're like in this whole area where people are either getting whipped or whatever it may be. If some dude comes up to you and like grabs your ass, you just let him grab your ass. It's not the worst thing. It's not the worst thing in the world, right? But if you do freak out, then all of a sudden, like, everything is...
The dynamic shifted. Now you're that, like, weird cisgender white male in the room, and it's like... Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying.
I mean, it's like, what? Or some guy tries to kiss you, whatever, it's fine. Yeah. I've nothing wrong with that, I mean, you do, want to have your limits, but, I mean, it's like... if you're curious about those environments and you're going in, you kind of need to have an open mind about that. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be going there, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like you wouldn't be going to some leather convention if you were scared of some random dude grabbing your ass. Like it seems like it just kind of comes with the job at that point. Where if I want these epic shots that no one's getting, you might have to take some L's sometimes, and that might mean.
But also, I mean, the same goes if you're shooting, let's say, punk rock shows, right? you kind of have to have a little bit of no fear. In the sense that if you're very new to it, it can be really intimidating. I'm talking like real kind of hardcore punk rock
that
stuff,
shit
right?
Is real.
And then on top of it is like, how do you get those awesome kinds of shots? Is that you also have to basically be in the pit with everybody else, man, and willing to, get slammed into the ground or whatever it might be. It's just, you got to be nice. You can't lie. You got to tell people what you're doing, but you also got to be, cool and open-minded. So no matter kind of what the situation is, and then sometimes those situations will find you. You'll I did a music video for the band Low Cut Connie. I don't know if you know them.
I actually saw that video.
Oh, you saw the video that I did? So they found
the uncut one too.
Huh?
The uncut one too.
The uncut one, uncensored one.
Sorry.
Yeah. So they found me on. I went to go see a band called the Lexington Arrows, who were from Baltimore, that I liked, and they were playing, I think, Comet Ping Pong, and Low Cut Connie was playing as well. It was like their first time here. And there was like 10 people there. And I was like, man, you guys are awesome. And I just kind of I took some photos, talked with the singer, sent it to him.
Nice.
And then he's just following me. And then he's like, hey, we're going to do another video. We want you to do the video. And we want to do the video from the perspective of how you shoot.
Oh.
And so I was like, well, how do we accomplish that? And then I had to think about all kinds of different ways to make that happen. So what I wound up doing was I got a dual hot shoe contraption, and I mounted a GoPro on top of the one of the hot shoes, and then my flash on the other one, and basically just left the video running while I was shooting.
Is that how you did that? It was so seamless watching that video. Whenever you would be on this scene of like two dudes in the shower or whatever it was, it would pause to the photo, and I was like, and it was so seamless. I was like, how the hell is he doing that?
That's exactly how I did it.
That was sick, man.
Yeah. So, and then with the GoPro, it does have, I guess, in camera cropping capabilities. You can do, I think, 50 millimeter, 25 millimeter, 28 millimeter, 35 or something like that. But I set it to the not the super wide screen, but the second one, which was like at 28. And and so just when. And then I set the time codes up so they were exact. So I knew where my photo was, where in that footage was that photo. So then I could just scrub through it and just find it.
That must have been an interesting challenge, just dealing with that. Like, let alone
and a GoPro
photos.
also, if you shoot GoPro RAW at night, or it's actually not bad. But the whole idea was to have it kind of grainy and gritty, so it's not like which is how it came out. But so that was a wild situation because, I had to go up to Philly. They played the Trocadero, and we had one night to do that. And we basically, I said, all right, so why don't we do this? Let's get like a hotel suite, and we'll just stock it with booze, and then we'll just invite everybody from the show. What? And they had I think they played like 800 people that night or something. And so we just invited people off the street.
Holy shit.
And just back to it. They all had to sign a release because it was going to be a video.
Yeah.
And then we also stocked it with like a blow up doll, balloons.
Have that video. It's like this guy walking around the streets with a blow up doll, big anime titties. It was hilarious.
So we just kind of like, threw these props and basically had a big bar and was just like,
it felt so natural. I wouldn't have guessed that you kind of staged it a little bit, but that it wasn't
perfect. I made the stage, I didn't tell anybody what to do, really.
So when you're in a situation like that, and like you're in like the hotel room, and everyone's kind of turning up and having a good time, like when two people jump in the shower like that, are you just like, yo, do this like that? How are you operating in that environment? Like, what's like your
So there's another part of that video where some of it is actually staged. So in order to we thought in order to get all these regular people or people from the show going a little crazy, I had two gay African-American friends of mine come up, And then I had, the Low Cut Kind of guys had these 2 model girls that they knew that were kind of wild.
Oh.
And so their job was to kind of help people's loosen up with their inhibitions.
That's so slick.
Yeah.
Oh, that video was gnarly, dude. Like, I enjoyed watching that video. I had no idea who the band actually was, but I knew that it was a good ass time.
Yeah. Well, that band is fantastic, by the way, and they're blowing up. I think they just did a tour with Big Frida, and
whoa.
Yeah, and they're
That's wild.
Elton John supports them. They're amazing. Probably the best live band I think I maybe have ever seen.
Whoa.
It's old school piano, boogie woogie rock and roll, but with like a modern.
And they're from out of where?
Philly.
Oh, yeah, some wild shit would come out of Philly. I'm not surprised. Man, there's some hard people over there.
Yeah. So they're great. So that was basically how that came to be.
But you channeled you channeled the energy from these sort of niche groups that you cover at like these groups. I guess it's always at night into that video, but I'm so much more curious about the work in these crazy environments because it's such a situation that 99% of photographers won't ever experience. We just kind of see this work from the outside, and I wonder what is this guy? Like, how is he even
Well, dude,
there?
you do fashion photography, right?
Yeah.
Which is something I would really like to get into, but there are certain fashion photographers that kind of go into that realm too. Like
they do.
Jürgen Teller. Oh God, who's the guy that has a bunch? Helmut Newton. Terry Richardson.
Terry Richardson. You know one of my favorite photos that I love of Terry Richardson that made me a fan of his? This is the most raunchy shit.
Is it the Cunnilingus one?
What's that one?
It's the one he's at a nudist camp, and there's all these people like waiting in line at the cafeteria, but then in the background, someone's performing cunnilingus on someone on a swing.
Oh no, that's genius. One of my favorite photos that made me be like, yo, Terry Richardson is the godfather of the shit was it's a photo of him taking a photo, right? But the photo, so it's a photo of if this is a scene. Mm-hmm. The scene is him taking a photo of a girl, like holding his dick, like hard dick, and she has jizz on her. But he's taking a photo of her, and they're like both smiling, having a good time. But it's a photo of that scene. And when I saw that, I was like, "This is the most meta, next level shit I've ever seen." I was like, "This guy is a gangster."
Well, that guy, yeah, he's a gangster. He's also a gangster that's gotten into a lot of trouble.
He's been canceled, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, and I can't. Yeah, but I can't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can justify that because I've not been in that particular kind of situation. But I also try to respect the people I shoot, and I do not want to. I just, there's a lot of sleaze that goes on in that sort of thing, and I don't really want to be part of that. I'd like to document it from like an outsider. Like most of that stuff is kind of set up and arranged a bit, or then it becomes porn, and that's not interesting to me either. I want photographs that make you question what you're looking at, as opposed to like, this is it.
What happened to Terry Richardson is he got accused of like rape and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and I guess he basically got canceled, as I say these days.
He got Me Too'd and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I mean, who knows? I don't know if he's still shooting or not. But what I'm saying in the fashion world, there's a lot of stuff like that goes down. But
Mario Testino, he got Me Too'd by a bunch of male models.
Yeah. There's several people like that.
But speaking of your work, is that it's tasteful. Like it doesn't blur the line of pornography. It's still very much art and eroticism, but there's that fine line, like you mentioned, of tasteful photography and untasteful porn.
Yeah.
And yours is, I think it always does a good job of being documentary and tasteful.
Well, I try.
At least what you show us. I'm sure there's some shit that you got that's like,
whoops. Well, I do have this right here, which this is a mock-up of I guess people on video can see this.
Whoa, what is that?
So this is a mock-up of a book that I have coming out in March. My goal this year is to put out 4 books.
Whoa.
And this is called Gratuity Included, and it's basically... And the whole book kind of, if you look at the photos, it kind of reads like a fever dream. And there's really there is some of that kind of lewdness stuff in a way. But, I mean, if you flip through it.
Whoa, this is awesome, man. This looks great.
Yeah, so that's a mock-up, but it's going to be a real zine. And there's this red film stuff that's going to separate What happened? What could, the sections in there.
Are you gonna do like a release party or anything for this?
I'm not 100% sure yet. I want to get the actual real thing first so I can, build my web page to sell it. And then,
whoa, dude, this is so cool. I feel like I can just look at this. Dude, I love stuff like this.
Yeah. So it's kind of, it's just stuff that I haven't really, some of it's been on Instagram, but most of it hasn't.
Oh, I saw some titties in there. Definitely not putting that on Instagram without some big stars on it.
No, and I think that was from a bachelor party. I think that's the only breasts in this one.
So you've kind of like built this reputation as like that photographer who is not scared to go and be that guy, like to adventure and kind of be adventurous in that sense. Like, is that true? Like do you find that now you're attracting gigs like that? Like people are like, yo, we got to hit Chris Suspect for this shit. Like you're kind of like that guy in this area now?
No, I don't know. No one calls me up to do this stuff. They're like scared. They're like, oh shit, he's here. He's going to make this look much worse than it is.
Oh shit. Okay.
No, I mean, I don't, who knows? No one, I mean, like the Low Cut Connie thing was like, one of the things that kind of came from it. I've also, I don't go shoot weddings, but I've had 2 people ask me to shoot weddings, to shoot it in like this style.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. So, but I mean, like the career arc, if you will, for me was, I was pretty much started off with just kind of straight street photography where it was just on the street. And then I started entering some contests and then winning them or placing in them. And then I was kind of known as a street photographer. And then while I was doing that, I was going out at night shooting punk rock shows here in D.C., roughly from like 2010 to 2014.
Wow.
And then I put those all together into like a book that was published by Empty Stretch. And that became really big. It wound up being exhibited in some great places around the world. The Leica Gallery put it into their archives. The DC Public Library has copies of the images. So I became he's the music photographer. And then now I'm, then I've been started this gratuity included stuff, and now I'm like the party photographer. And then when I do the, the leather scene stuff, I'll probably be the gay photographer.
Well, I always
and then I have some other stuff coming up that's more of this kind of landscapey seaside stuff with a twist, and who knows what that'll be. So,
well, I mean, I hate to shine so much light on the gratuity included stuff because your work outside of that, your street and your documentary stuff is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
And I don't want to insult you by only talking about this because it's just the most sensational stuff to talk about. But looking at your body of work, at least what you have out there on the internet, like your balloon series was so slick and smart, dude. It was good.
Dude, thanks, man.
Like I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's a series for people who are listening to this, or even if you're watching on video, we don't have an image to show you, but it's a series of people just on the street where or they're holding a balloon, but it just kind of naturally by the wind or whatever covers their face and it kind of turns them into a balloon head. And it's a popular trope in street photography, obscuring faces. But it's really hard to get that kind of shot because of the wind and everything. And so I've just been whenever I see someone with a balloon, I'm just kind of focused in like, will the wind blow the right way or whatever. So it's really kind of hard to get like a really good one. But yeah, and I think putting together as a series is kind of cool. Some guy approached me, and I don't know whatever became of it, but he started, he wanted to put out a whole book that was a compilation of this kind of stuff. And then when he discovered me, he's like, dude, you're gonna be like half the book. It was
out of what stuff?
Out of the balloon head stuff.
I was thinking, I was like, how did he find the moments to like, were you like sitting there and just waiting for the right balloon wind to take the balloon?
Yeah, that's kind of like how it goes. Yeah, it's like you see someone kind of holding a balloon, and ideally they're standing and not moving. And then you'll you know, ideal, or they'll have a little kid in front of them holding a balloon, because then the balloon is about the height of their head, and then you can do it that way. But it's really kind of it's tough, man.
Yeah, in fact, there are so many images, and I was like, wow, this is a solid series you've clearly been working on for a long period of time.
Yeah. So, and nothing's set up in any of those at all. So
no, I never thought that at all. It's looking at it and looking at your work, I was like, damn, this is very much street photography.
Yeah. Well, I had I guess at one of the first shows Mike O'Brien did at Hole in the Sky, I had like 6 of those images up, and half the people were like, how did you set this up?
I didn't. Do you spend a lot of time out on the streets actually just trying to get stuff?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, like I was just in Chinatown for the Chinese New Year's. I used to carry my camera with me all the time, but then that would get me in trouble because I'd forget, I'd be shooting, I'd get into that zone. I'd be like, oh man, I've been on my, out to lunch now for 4 hours or something like that. So I stopped doing that and being more purposeful. Like, oh, I'm going to go out for 4 hours and see whatever happens. And I do shoot around D.C. quite a bit, but I've also been traveling a lot. And that's even better because I don't have to, wherever I am, I don't have to think about just regular, human being responsibilities, You can
like detach and just capture them in the most savage street photography way.
Exactly. Or, just see what happens. It's, it's great. So
street photography for me is so intimidating. So I always respect that. It's like I always found street photography being so like, it's like almost introducing yourself to a stranger, but you kind of get away with not saying it, but you get the photo. Like how do you approach that?
So that's another thing where I think being honest about your intentions and telling the truth to people. And what I found is 80% of the time that people think I'm crazy and they don't want to have anything to do with me. So,
damn.
For example, if I am in Chinatown, this is a photo that I took where people were kind of like, why did you take that photo? So it was like this kind of white couple, like they looked like a little worried, and they were like holding hands and walking fast. And it was right outside that McDonald's there, right? And you had all those, black dudes there hanging out. And the whole thing to me screamed of like, this is speaks of kind of a racism and fear, so when they said, why did you take our picture? I said, well, it kind of speaks to racism. And they're like, we don't want to have anything to do with you. and left. Or, like there might be something where like some kind of juxtaposition where they don't realize something else is going on in my frame because they're not paying attention to their surroundings. And I'm like, I'm trying to juxtapose you with this couple kissing over here or whatever it might be. And they're like, huh? And they don't see anybody there. And I'm like, well, they were just kissing or whatever it might be. So they're like, oh, okay. Occasionally you get people that get it that are like, oh man, like, can you send me that photo? There's some architect in San Francisco that was like, really, man, here's my email, here's all my stuff.
Most people would feel creeped out, like, or they'd be like confused, like, can you legally do that? And it's like, yes, you can. Yeah,
well, so, I mean, that happens really infrequently, but when it does, I'm like, well, yes, I can. And then especially in like Chinatown area, I'm like, it's like, you're also on these cameras over here. That's when I'm the least of your worries, really. Oh, and if you want to call the cops, I'll call the cops. And so, that freaks them out too, when you're willing to wait for the cops.
You ever have like a crazy situation happen, whether it was like in these crazy clubs or on the street?
So there's the craziest thing that happened to me was really bizarre.
Oh, yeah.
I was on my way to Pen Camera to develop some film. I think this was like 2010 or something. They were on 7th Street or 7th and F or 8th and F maybe at that time. And so like they opened at 8 and I got there I think I got there a little early, like 7:45, and I was like, you know what? I got a couple shots left on this roll. I'm just going to walk around. And then I stumbled across this woman sitting down at this whole array of tables, and all the tables had their chairs like on top of them, but she was at the one table with one chair, with no chair, with no chairs around it, but in this shaft of light, and she was just like reading the newspaper, and it just kind of looked like a nice, quiet, scene. I was like, okay, took it, and I was literally like 20, 30 feet away. I mean, I was going for the whole thing. I wasn't getting close or anything. Mm-hmm. And because I was using an old Nikon F2, those things are loud as hell. They go, you hear it. And as soon as I did that, she gets up and comes over to me and goes, did you take my picture? And I was like, yeah. She's like, why'd you take my picture? And I said, well, it looked really beautiful with you and the lights sitting there reading the paper, like a nice quiet scene. And then she was like, you can't take my picture like that. And I'm like, yeah, I think I can. You're in public, and you had the newspaper in front of your head. I mean, no one knows who you are. Then she goes, I've had my vagina all over the internet. I've been raped before. You can't. What are you doing with that photo? And then I was like, I'm going to put it out in the New York Times. I kind of came back with a smart ass response. And then she flipped out and started screaming rape while all these commuters are walking.
Oh my
God.
God.
And then she physically grabbed my camera and then started trying to punch me in the face. So I was kind of holding her off.
Holy shit.
And the circle of people were around. And the thing was I had a camera strap around my neck kind of thing, and she was like holding onto that, so I couldn't get out of that. And then the police show up, thank God, quickly. And they're like, what's going on here? I'm like, this woman's accosting me. And so the police are like, leave him alone. And he's like, what's going on? And he's like, he took a picture of me. And he's like, where were you? She's like, sitting over there. And it's like, so you were in public? She's like, yes. He's like, well, he can do that. And she's like, no, he can't. And then she started swinging on the police.
No way.
Yeah. And then she wound, and the police were like, sir, you can leave. So I went across the street. And then the police wound up arresting her and throwing her in the back of the car.
Damn, you triggered the right crazy person at the wrong time.
Exactly, man.
That is wild.
They didn't look like they were like a homeless person or somebody, that was suffering from mental illness at the time, because I don't know, it wasn't a logical reaction,
That is extremely illogical. She was clearly damaged by someone who put her nudes online. That is wild.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, who knows? So, so that was probably the worst thing. Another bad thing that happened to me was in Brussels.
Uh-oh.
And I was there. I had some work up in the Jewish Museum of Belgium, and we were leaving the reception, and there's these like Arab guys hanging out doing whippets on the street. And so I photographed one of them doing whippets, and then he kind of came after me and just basically wanted to start a fight. You can't take my photo, this and that.
Shit.
But I had a couple people with me, and nothing really ever came of that. But that's he was just kind of out of his mind.
Yeah.
But also, Belgium that's actually one of the places in the EU where you're allowed to photograph anybody. In fact, they don't even have CCTV cameras in Belgium because they're concerned about their privacy of the state spying on them. But you're allowed to take pictures. But I mean, if you're just walking around, you'll get people walking up to you and be like, "Don't take your picture," even though you haven't even like lifted your camera up. So it's not a very fun place.
Like people are very weird about their privacy there.
Yeah, they'll just come after you if you even have a camera sometimes.
That's so weird. What a weird thing to be sensitive about for a whole nation of people.
Yeah. I mean, it's not everybody, but it is palpable. You can sense that on the street there. I mean, it didn't stop me from doing stuff, but at the same time, it's just like you're always kind of just waiting for someone to come up and yell at you, which doesn't make it fun. Where you go to, I do these photo workshops in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, during Day of the Dead.
Oh, nice.
And there, no one cares. You can photograph freely all you want. So it's really interesting. Different places around the globe that have different feelings about this sort of thing.
Is it an American thing to be able to get photographed in public, or is it just in some EU places it's kind of weird?
It's cool in America. It's cool in the UK. It's cool in Eastern Europe, at least from my experience.
I'm not gonna lie. I thought one of your craziest moments would have been at some leather daddy convention, and someone was like, "What are you doing, bro?"
No, not at all. Probably safer to shoot there than on the streets of Brussels, man. Or even on the streets of D.C. So yeah, I had a friend the other day that got beat up.
No way.
He shot them on U Street. Yeah.
Ooh, that's a rough street, man. You photographed the wrong pocket of people standing on the corner. You better have a real good explanation.
Yeah. So and you never know, like, are they drunk or So
also, did he look like he could get beat up? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Like, there's some photographers who do street photography. I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, man. Most people could probably beat you up. You probably shouldn't be doing this.
But it should not be that way, right? It's like you should be able to, at night with a flash. Yeah, I can understand that's a little aggressive.
That is very aggressive.
But I've not had any instances.
I actually did that.
And I photographed full-on brawls too, and
oh shit! I mean, I imagine some of those punk shows you've covered, it pretty much is a brawl the whole time. It's like,
well, it's not a brawl. I mean, everyone's there, most of the time to have fun. I mean, occasionally somebody gets hurt. I mean, sure, there's occasionally a fight, but that's about probably as you might have a fight at just any regular bar or just on U Street or at a regular party. I mean, that kind of stuff just happens.
Yeah. See, I'm not. I will never claim being a street photographer, but I've been working on this series called Let's Make Out, where I've been trying to catch people just making out, and I've just been savage with it. Whether it's like in a bar, wherever I'm at, wherever I always have like a little film camera with me. But there's been a couple nights I went out on U Street, and I was like, all right, it was like 1, 2 in the morning on like a Friday, Saturday night.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, all right, I know I can get some people, And I had to get comfortable with it because I'm not used to that. And I had a flash on my film camera and everything. And I kind of started to notice that people are like deer in headlights for the first few seconds. Like if you're smooth enough with it and you know the moment's happening or you get it, it's like, and if it happens fast enough and you don't linger and you just keep going, no one either A, notices, or if they do notice, they're kind of like, what? And then they just forget about it.
They're like, what was that? What just happened?
Yeah.
And then they don't think it was them. But honestly, if you're getting people making out, 99.9% of the time, they have no idea that you just did it because they're really into making out.
Right.
That's what I found. It seems a little intimidating to do that, right? Like I'm invading their personal space and their private moment. But most of the time, they have no idea that it happened. Sometimes you can shoot off a bunch of rounds of your flash. The other thing I found, too, is that if they notice you, they burst out laughing, and occasionally they'll be like, "Oh, can you take more of us?" And I've never had any problem shooting somebody making out that I don't know that I just see on the street. You got to be good natured. I mean, also if you show fear, like you've done something wrong,
true,
after you've taken the photo, they'll sense that, right? So, you got to be confident in the reason why you're taking the photo. And that's where I come back to, you have to be honest and true about your intention. So if someone says, why are you doing that? And you're like, man, I'm working on this project of just people making out. They'll probably laugh and think that's cool. They're like, oh man, I could be in your project.
That's what I said for a couple people. I was like, yeah, I'm working on this thing. I don't know what's going to happen, but that's what it is. And don't worry about it. And like, oh yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's cool. Does the name Alan Menox mean anything to you?
No.
Really?
Alan Menox?
Yeah. For some reason, he's like a Cuban photojournalist. I thought you were the guy that maybe got him into shooting like the DC drag race.
No.
I know you shoot that, right?
Yeah. You mean the 17th Street?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've a couple times, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But no, I don't think I know him.
Okay. Has there ever been a situation where you're like, this is the craziest shit I've ever shot? Like in your mind, you're sitting there with your camera, like, what the fudge am I doing here? Has there ever been like
where I've questioned me being somewhere?
Yeah, where like you're at some place that's so insane, you're just like, what is going on? What?
That would have been the first year that I went to the Mid-Atlantic Leather Fest, because I just had no idea, and it was super intimidating. And then the next year, I brought a gay friend with me for some support. And that helped big time. And then after that, it's not been a problem. And it's just not regular gay stuff. This is like, people getting whipped in public or I don't know if you know about the electrosex stuff.
What is that?
It's where we'll use no, they have all kinds of devices, but they're charged with electricity, and they'll put them on their testicles and zap themselves. And then there's weird
Talk about some fried eggs.
Weird latex stuff. There's this year there was this what's called a latex vacuum bed.
I've actually seen that on HBO Real Sex when I was really young.
Oh, really? I'd never seen that before.
You never seen that?
And that was one thing. And that's when I was like going like, wow, this is something. But I wasn't scared. It was kind of, it was cool.
Well, I think at a certain point, you're kind of just, you're like detached from it or something. And you're sitting there sort of, this is fun. What other kind of crazy stuff is going to happen here?
Yeah. I mean, and everybody's there in good nature to have fun. So it's really, what's intimidating is the surface. But if you're, get beyond that, it's like just harmless fun, really.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a lot of
I mean, if you're into getting whipped.
Or shocking your balls. Yeah, I mean, that's cool too. Shock the balls a little bit. Let's go, baby. Put that in your Hinge profile.
So, I mean, I've seen some kind of, weird stuff like that. I'm trying to think, though, that more of the weirder stuff that happens, like there you go and expect to see weird stuff. But then weird stuff can just happen in general in places, I'm
just going to throw the long ball here. Have you ever seen any of those like sex clubs in D.C.?
No, I've not been to any of those. I heard they exist.
Dude,
but
there's one right next to where Hole in the Sky Collective is, like right around the corner.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I've not, yeah, no, I have not. What's that called? A gauntlet or no, not gauntlet. Crucible, I think, right?
I don't know. I remember
somebody associated with Hole in the Sky actually works there. But yeah, I've know nothing about it. That should be one of your next guests, man.
What?
Have someone from that club.
I'm extremely scared to walk into that place because I feel like they're just gonna like throw me on stage and strap me down and just like do. Really
I think that's I think they wouldn't last if they did stuff like that.
True. Maybe I'm wishful thinking here, but like I'm just curious. Like, what are they doing? Like we're walking by.
So if you wanted to go photograph a place like that, right? I think this is what I would do. I would go there, with my wife or my girlfriend.
Just to feel it out first.
This is a straight club, right? So they probably have a gay night. But just go there, get to know some of the people. Like, hey, he's a photographer. Would you, it's like, would it be possible to bring my camera some night? And they're like, well, in that case, you go, well, you'd have to probably ask the people involved. And then you just kind of get to know people, and then you'll find some people that are willing to do it, and others be like, oh, definitely not, or others be like, yeah, sure, as long as you don't show my face. So, but you gotta make an effort to become ingrained into the community that you're. You got to do some research. You got to know what you're getting involved in. You should ideally know a little bit of the language. So one of the strangest things, and came out to be like one of the most awesome things that happened to me, which is another book that I've been trying to get published. Is many years ago, I was in Georgetown and saw this guy get hit by a taxi.
Whoa!
And I took photos of the whole scene, and he wasn't badly hurt. It was just his foot got run over, right?
Oh, okay.
And so. Anyway, he said, hey, can you send these for my lawyer? And I was like, sure. And then he said, yeah, I'll pay you or whatever. I was like, don't worry about it. And I just sent him photos from the scene. And then like 3 months later, he calls me and goes, hey, man, I'm hosting this party. I've been checking your photos out online. I'm hosting this party. Do you mind coming to shoot it? And this one I'll definitely pay you for and all this. And I'm like, sure, why not, man? And I had no idea. And it turns out it was a party for African Americans on the down low, and they all wore masks. It was like eyes wide shut, and they're all in underwear. And I guess most people are out, but some weren't. So it wasn't everybody was on the down low. But anyway, it was just insane, and I was a total fish out of water. I did not know.
You didn't know you were walking into that?
No, I had no idea.
Oh, no way. Did they give you a mask and everything too?
No. They were just like, just go ahead, do your thing, but so the guy that ran it, this guy Bilal, it's just like, he's cool. He's the photographer for tonight.
Okay.
So no one cared. And so, but it was another like kind of intimidating
What was going on in this
situation.
place?
It was just like people were just, walking around in their underwear, being very kind of flirtatious and sexual with each other. But they were wearing masks, and it made it look, it was just like, it just reminded me of that movie Eyes Wide Shut. And so I was like, how do I shoot this? I was like, I'm going to shoot this like I'd shoot like a punk show. And I'm just going to be like aggressive and just get what I get. And then I wound up sharing the photos with Bilal afterwards, and then I guess he shared them around that community, and then all of a sudden I started getting asked to come back and shoot more, and they loved them. And then from that experience, when I was like, like maybe 4 or 5 months later, I'm looking through all this work, and I see a lot of these guys have all these kind of religious tattoos, and like crosses, the rosary, or God's miracle, or something like that on them, and I'm like, Bilal, what's all this about, man? He's like, why does half these people have all these religious tattoos? He's like, oh, a lot of them all belong to this church in Southwest. And I'm like, dude, you got to take me to your church. And he's like, well, it's not my church because I'm Muslim, but you can let me introduce you to this other guy, Terrence. And so Terrence had seen me around or whatever, and he's like, yeah, I'll bring you in. He's like, but you got to talk to the pastor there first. So my idea was like, if I have like kind of these party shots with these guys, but but kind of mixing them with them in church, I thought would be a really cool idea.
Yeah.
And so, but I had nothing to show this guy other than the party shots, the pastor. So my first meeting was sitting in the back room of this church, and I'm like, here's the shots, and the pastor's there with his husband at the time. They're going through them going, I really like these. And these are like, sure, you can shoot in here. And so I wound up shooting in that church for almost a full year, going to all their services on Sunday. And while I was doing that, then I was getting more into the guys' like kind of personal lives, or like, can you come shoot me and my boyfriend in my room, in my apartment or whatever. And that wound up doing, I just put that whole thing together as a series called Faith. But that was something that was really...
Whoa, that sounds like an awesome series.
Yeah, in fact, one of the images from that series is currently in Photo LA right now in Los Angeles, which is a big thing.
Like a big photo competition or something?
No, it's like a photo expo of all the largest galleries and museums. Like the Getty Museum is involved and all kinds of
What's
stuff.
the photo?
It's a picture of this guy on a balcony, and what's really cool, and he's kind of has this sort of shocked look on his face. He's shirtless, covered in baby oil, and he's got a cross on that's sideways. But then to the right of him is this weird like white scarecrow thing. And it seemed to me it was like the exact opposite of blackface, but for white people. So it was like a white face kind of howdy doody looking sort of thing, and it just seemed like this really crazy juxtaposition combined with how like the cross was put on sideways.
What is this church? Is this like the Church of Dick? What is this? This is like the weirdest church I've ever seen. Like,
not a cool thing to say. It's a real church, and they've
sorry, I'm trying to bad joke.
And it's a very warm community that does a lot of great outreach for like the AIDS community here in D.C. They serve food to homeless people. They're a full-on church. They basically created a little mecca for people, for primarily African Americans who've been ostracized in their own Baptist churches, which are homophobic as hell for the most part. There's a couple around I think there's like 5 churches around that are accepting like that, but this one's one of the biggest and most active ones.
Oh, okay, so it's like a legit church, like
real
church.
It is a full-on
it's kind
church.
of like an escape from the normal hetero church.
Also the other thing about this project, which is really kind of illuminating, is that I thought the gay scene was all kind of hunky-dory under the rainbow flag and everybody was equal. But that's just not the case, as I discovered, because I'd go to some clubs with these guys and some of them would not be let in for some like bogus dress code reason, but basically because they were black. And there's and there's a lot of gay white racism against gay black people in DC. And also I mean, it's really it's quite a thing. So these folks, like this first party that I went to was actually a rented out space in a restaurant in DuPont Circle. And everything that I went to, they had created their own. So it's either they would rent out some club and they would alert you only by text messages. You had to get on a special text message list. And that's how you kind of found out about it, because like they were doing like these pool parties in PG County. I never got to go to one. The one that I was going to go to got shut down because they were threatened, that people were going to come and beat them up.
Wow.
When I was shooting the church, this was over, I guess Pride weekend 2014. They discovered a pipe bomb in a bag outside the church.
Whoa.
So it's kind of like, it was like a privilege to be let into this community where people could practice their religion and their sexuality really without fear, right? But it's something they have to go do, because they're not, there's parts that are uncomfortable about going to a white gay club.
I never knew.
Crazy.
It's like, not only is it a subculture, but it's like a subculture where they have to create their own like event just because of racism. I never thought about that. I always thought the gay community would be way more accepting of
that. Well, that's what I thought going in, right? And I don't, I had no idea, and it was like, and it just opened up, my eyes to like, wow, this is like. But the thing is like this group, instead of being like, I mean, sure, they've all are victims of racism, but it's so much more. They're actually been empowered. They've empowered their own community and created something amazing that, I just haven't really seen that kind of community come together out, creating their own beautiful community out of their other circumstances, and then giving back to the communities, by, practicing safe, or, educating people about safe sex, or, helping people with AIDS in the hospital or whatever. There's this whole thing. I think that's called Impact Group is the name of that charity that reaches out to African Americans.
Sounds like you got really connected with this whole group of people.
Yeah, they're great. They're my friends today.
That's awesome.
So, some of them are in that Low Cut Connie video.
Yeah, I love that entire story about just how it started with an accident, and you did the awesome thing, which is you went down the rabbit hole, which most people wouldn't have. And I think that's the coolest thing.
That's another thing. Like, if something seems like it could be interesting, go do it. So and that's how I've kind of followed up through stuff. Things like I thought like Comic-Con might be interesting to shoot, but I didn't find it that interesting. I went to that once. Some things to me are kind of like a bust, but I really prefer kind of the like subcultures and kind of hidden communities that have their own kind of languages, if you will.
Why is that? Why do you find them more fascinating?
I just think it's sort of like you're trying to psychologically decode like what makes these people click. It's kind of a psychological sort of thing for me. I mean, because when I grew up in D.C. and I was primarily like a skater, punk rocker dude, and I would go to all the punk shows and stuff like that, and those are two kind of subcultures.
Very much.
And so, I kind of like appreciate, like one subculture that I didn't really care too much for, back in the early 90s, or I mean late 90s really in DC, was like the kind of the rave culture. But I've actually gotten to appreciate that more and more recently, because I don't know, I've gotten into like EDM music kind of stuff.
Welcome
lately.
to the club, my friend.
So yeah, I just got my Dylan Francis tickets the other day. So I don't know if you know him.
Of course, I knew Dylan. He's really big. He's been around for a long time.
Yeah, but I mean, he's got some really cool songs, and I am so out of place in those environments.
But you find that subculture interesting.
Yes, I do. So but I find photographing the EDM thing is a little rough not because no one wants their picture taken, but because everyone's all doing the same thing. You know, it's like.
Have you been to the late night warehouse raves?
No.
You
got to bring me now.
I got to bring myself for the first time. But have you been to Flash?
No.
Okay, so Flash is it's a rave, or it's one of the dance rave clubs / almost gay bar out on U Street, and it's one of the few places that's open until 3 or 4 a.m. But if you go there and you know the people, they're always going to the warehouse raves that are like the real DC shit. And there's a couple collectives who operate in there. And like I know of it's like DJ Lisa Frank, I think, is one of the main party throwers. But somewhere in this warehouse district in DC are these.
A warehouse district, where is that?
Maybe that's just what they call it. I don't know what they call it. But they're having these crazy late night, like 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. parties.
Jesus. I find that hard to do.
Yeah, but that seems like something up your alley, because I've heard that it's just wild up in those places. Like it's predominantly gay, but it's also mad drugs, mad wild, mad free.
Yeah, it sounds. It's definitely something I'd like to do, for sure. So
I regret not going to all of them now. Damn it! So I could give you some like actual feedback.
So yeah, but I find for example, like going to some of these, because I've been to some in Europe as well, and it's just like, how do you get like a different? I haven't really figured out like how to make that a little bit more, I guess, intimate, other than hot girls dancing, or you know what I'm saying.
It seems like you got to keep digging on it, like that scene I mentioned. It seems like you got to keep digging, because I know exactly what scene you're talking about. It's like the hot half naked girls with candy, like the bracelets on their arm, and
yeah.
It's like, okay, like clearly you're rolling or whatever it is. It's like that's interesting, but it's also mainstream in a way.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, it's like my primarily goal is to look for something that's visually intriguing or interesting. And when you're like in a sea of people that kind of like all look similar and all dance the same, and you've seen those photos a billion times, it's like, where does this get kind of interesting? So like at a punk show, it's not really as packed as much, and you have DJs are really uninteresting to shoot.
Oh my god, yes.
For the most part. Although I did get some good shots of a Diplo in Miami, at this nightclub called Live.
Oh, that's a huge nightclub.
Yeah, but what was crazy about that, I was there for Art Basel week, and they, I was like, oh, Diplo's there, I'm going to go. Got general admission tickets. That club is mostly tables, so the general admission part of it is really small, and you're right, basically, with Diplo right in front of him. And so I'm shooting that, and then you got people standing up, like swigging champagne behind me, and confetti going everywhere. And then you got these dancers, and Paris Hilton's in the background over there. So that was kind of fun. But
that's interesting.
But you don't get, and that's what's cool about shooting punk shows, is because you're like, you can be right up front in the action. But when you go to, let's say, like Echo Stage, for example, even if you are on the stage, you don't have the proximity of the crowd to kind of provide that same energy and to put them together in a frame together, right?
It kind of seems like you need that closeness to have the impact that you're looking for. Like you need to be right in their face kind of thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, but everything needs to be in proximity, which is like, I'm not a fan of shooting bands at 930 Club, because they got this barricade, the stage, and you can't... Really, I'd rather shoot a band playing in this space right now with 10 people in the room, and that I think would be so much more interesting visually.
And I've seen that. It was fucking rad.
Oh, there's been a band who played
Literally,
here?
they played right here, and it was like a 4.
And how many people could fit in here?
Maybe like 15. It was so hot, but it was the best feeling ever.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. Also, like when the audience for anything like this is that close and it's that intimate, they play off each other, and then you can capture that feeling too. So that's kind of like what I'm going for, instead of a cool photo of a DJ with his interesting electronic thing going on behind him. you know, I don't know, you can see that anywhere.
Well, compared to what you've seen, especially when you see something like that, you're like, oh, this is vanilla. Like it's so disconnected. It's very corporate and mainstream. It's like, where's the real kind of
So just because I don't find it all that interesting to shoot does not mean I do not enjoy the music. So
True. Yeah, I'm just talking like purely artistic photography content wise. Yeah, I would love any Diplo show any day of the week. Any Dylan Francis show I'd thoroughly enjoy.
Although, so I did get some good shots at the Diplo show, by the way, but this was because me and my friend, somehow we managed to get back into the VIP section.
Finesse.
And there was one table. I swear it was just the strippers out for the night out on town. And they were like giving lap dances and stuff in this but see, Diplo's like on the other side of the place, and so that was kind of fun to shoot. That was fun. Interesting, right? Yeah. But it's like, you know, I don't know if I have it in me to go to every EDM show to find stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because for the most, you know, it's most of these shows are really big, and it's like it's just there's the intimacy between the artist and the audience is kind of non-existent unless they go out into the crowd.
Well, with big names like that, with Dylan Francis and Diplo, you're going to get a lot of like separation from them in the crowd because these guys are beyond famous. Like,
yeah, sure, but you know, like I said, I don't know the field that well. Nobody my age listens to EDM. I can assure you of that. So it's like it's just kind of what I hear online or you know, might hear at the gym or something. I'll be like, who's that? And then I'll kind of research it a little bit. So like knowing that like there might be a whole scene in DC at some warehouse space where hopefully they're more into the music than into just the drugs. That would be cool.
100% there is. And a lot of it is connected to Flash, and a lot of it is connected to loosely U Street Music Hall. But that place is hard to photograph, and they don't want you taking photos there.
Yeah, I know.
I hate that.
I've shot there a couple times, but yeah.
Yeah, they're so against it. But what makes you so partial towards black and white in all of your photos? Because I've noticed that's like a very recurring theme, and it's really nice. Like the black and white you use, it seems timeless.
Yeah. So part of it is that. Part of it is so during the day when I shoot, I usually shoot in color because I can see color, and color is sort of a puzzle in the way. It adds a whole other layer to photography, whereas not only do you have to think about whatever the action or the juxtaposition or the layering or whatever that might be going on, you also then got the complication of color, and it's like, how do you make that work? And then there's some images during the day some images that only work because of color and wouldn't work as a black and white. However, at night, I can't really see color in the same way I do during the day. And it's like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I find it, I find shooting at night to be a little bit more, I'm looking for gestures and action and juxtaposition here and there, or just regular or weirdness or whatever, because I'm not really considering color, because I can't really size up color in a dark room to know, oh wow, there's if this room was dark, I would know this is green moss up here, and and let's say someone had like a red shirt on, that I could probably tell, but I wouldn't even think to play the green moss off the red shirt, because I would just think it's some kind of black bolt on the ceiling.
Oh, because it's just so dark, and especially in these places where
what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's not really a consideration for me, because I can't really, see how that's going to, I can't really size that up if that will be an interesting thing to shoot. So I'm more at night about the gestures and stuff.
Well, the black and white definitely adds that feeling where when you take away the color, now you have to see it for what the situation is or what the scene is, and then now you're not focused on the color of the shirt, you're thinking about what's going on. Like it almost focuses you, like the viewer's attention on it.
It does focus you a little bit more on that that attention. So it's really it's interesting. So there is actually one photo in here that actually works great as a color photo. Let's see if I can find it. But, it's like you don't want to throw one color photo in to a black and white.
When you're out at night and you're shooting, do you shoot in color or do you do it?
I shoot in color because I I use a digital Leica.
Oh,
so,
and then in post you put it in black and white.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find that one. Jeez, did I not include that in here?
Uh-oh. Looks like you got to go back to the drawing board.
No, absolutely not, man. This took a long time to... this one right here. So it's the one of this woman kind of passing out with her eyes rolling in the back of her head.
That is a heavy photo, by the way.
Yeah, so in color, like this is kind of a blue sailor outfit, and she's got like red lipstick on and these shirt. Anyway, she totally pops out of the photo in color.
But it isn't.
But it's not something I could have considered when this happened.
Without you telling me that she's like drunk and passed out, whenever it looks like a very weird gangbang photo. Like you're
what?
Not maybe a gangbang, but like your mind goes to something sexual, like this girl's being taken advantage of or something. Like,
wow,
you know the backstory, so you can't connect it. But when I look at that photo, I'm like, what weird sex party is Chris at for this? Like,
so So this is But that's funny that your mind goes there because you're the first one to actually say
my mind is the worst place to go.
So, so this was, I was outside Club Deuce in Miami Beach at like 2 a.m. and this girl was just walking out and then she just totally collapsed. And these guys are, like, one guy's a bouncer, one guy is just somebody who's there and they're trying to help her out.
Let me see. I can't really see from this angle.
So it's kind of like, but to me, this photo sort of like she almost looks like kind of Jesus being taken down off the cross.
Okay, now when I look at it like this, I rescind my comments. But at first glance, you kind of think like something bad's gonna happen to this woman, or like whatever.
Or
like yeah,
well, something bad has happened to her. She's like,
looking up
but
at
for
Jesus.
for me, that photo is really more about the humanity around her, trying to help her out and save her.
I can't picture this photo in color now. Looking at it, like, I can't picture it.
Yeah, but actually, it's one that looks good in color. It just so happened to be, but it wasn't shot for that reason. You know what I'm saying?
But in a way, it's almost like the black and white is like, I associate that with like your style. Like that's your voice, your documentary, your street photography voice at night is like, that's what I associate with, is that black and white.
Yeah, there is. I do. Yeah, there's. Yeah, I've just kind of developed that over years. I mean, I've found I've been able to take a party of like 5 people and then make it look really interesting.
What's this? You said you have like a certain aggressive style of documenting. What is that? Could you talk more about that?
Well, so for example, like when I was growing up and going to punk rock shows, I was always looking at album cover art, right? And like, you look at some early Dead Kennedys album covers and or Black Flag. It's always something kind of like an aggressive photo or a kind of a Raymond Pettibon kind of cartoon, or like with Dead Kennedys, it was kind of like photojournalism stuff. So then I got into a band, and then I started making flyers for a band. I'd go into the library and go look up photo books and look for interesting photos to use for flyers. And that's when I discovered people like Dion Arbus and Ouija, and just kind of like, really weird black and white photos. And it's like, man, this stuff is awesome. So that's kind of like sort of the birth of like my influence, and especially someone like Ouija, who shot New York crime back in the 40s and 50s. Do you know anything about that guy?
No, I'm so fascinated.
Oh man, so Ouija is he used to basically he had a police radio, and he got an apartment right across from the police station, and he'd listen to it all the time. And as soon as he heard about like a call come in, he would like jump in a cab or jump in his own car, or occasionally hitch a ride with the police and go right out to the scene. And oftentimes he'd beat the police to the scene.
Holy.
So, and he would, there's a movie about him, and one of the funny
Nightcrawler?
I don't think it's Nightcrawler. I think Joe Piscopo is in the movie.
Oh, okay.
But in the movie, one of the lines that I remember is that he comes across some scene, and there's like witnesses there, but the police aren't there, and one of the witnesses are there, and he has a hat on, and he grabs the hat off the witness and he throws that onto the corpse. And witness is like, why'd you do that? He's like, because photos always look more interesting with a hat in them. And so I was like, oh wow, this is like, that was kind of, and he did stage some stuff,
whatever,
but which you're not supposed to do when you're a photojournalist. But anyway, he's like, just kind of his style and his sort of, he would throw this morbid humor into these these kinds of photos. So he was an influence, and then I started hearing about people like Anders Peterson, which is a black guy from Sweden, black and white photographer, and he has this whole series called City Diaries, and a lot of what he would just kind of shoot the city at night. And one of the things that he would do is he'd go into bars and find couples and basically say, hey, can I shoot you guys like having sex at your house?
No way.
Yeah. And he would do that, and they would appear like in the book, but it would be not porn style. It'd be kind of like this intimate
artistic
moment kind of. Yeah. So, and he's a very well-known guy, and there's, so I mean, that to me was kind of influential. So things like that. So, and then also my background in punk rock really is like it's aggressive music. So it kind of fits in the whole thing, kind of just works together and comes out as these sorts of photos.
How long have you been taking photos for?
So that's, I would say seriously since like 2010.
Whoa.
So
I've expected
but I mean, I've shot cameras before then, but not to where I was like, I got a camera for the birth of my son to kind of document his birth. It was just a Canon power shot. I basically learned the levels and, just experimented with it on the street. And I would just start taking photos. I was like, we're going to put them on Flickr. And then people started stealing my photos. Like blogs would steal them, or
Whoa.
Business Insider, if you're listening, would steal them.
Damn. Did you get after him, though?
This is what I did. This is genius,
okay,
man.
Here we go.
So instead of like going after them or calling them up and complaining, I just started sending invoices for realistic amounts for photos.
Genius, man.
And more than 50% of the time, they would pay them without question.
Because they knew.
Or they just thought it came in and like, oh, we'll pay this. I don't know. Like I never heard from them, but they paid them. And then other times they'd call back and be like, why are you charging for this? And then I'd be like, well, because you stole it off my website or Flickr. And they'd hem and haw. And I'd be like, look, you can do one of two things. You can either just take it off your site or you can pay me. It's like, this is not worth getting a lawyer for
over a photo.
$80 web usage at 600 pixels wide or however you calculate that math. And so, it was rare you got someone who was a dick. Some people, they'd try to, needle you down to something less or whatever. But, then you're arguing. And it just, at that point, it wasn't, those nickels and dimes weren't really worth it, but it was kind of fun to do.
It's so ingenious as opposed to causing a stinker. It's like, I'll just invoice them, see what happens.
Yeah.
Avoid all that mess.
Exactly.
Yeah,
some places are so big, they have no idea. Like, I guess that's an invoice. All right.
You probably look so
Process it.
legit. Oh, well, we didn't use that photo. And I guess he's a photographer. All right, here we go. Just shuffle that along.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. But only since 2010. Someone your age, I thought you'd been doing it for like 30, 40 years.
How old do you think I am, man?
I don't know, like 40, something, 50, 40, 50.
All right, that's good.
I'm
I
scared
like
to say.
I'm 51. I turned 51 in November, so.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
Yeah. So that's So really like 10 years. But before that, I was always involved. I was always into music, man. So I play bass, done tours and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, so before photography, you were a music dude.
Yeah, and I wish I was doing photography at the same time because that would have been I've seen some crazy stuff on tour. So,
Oof, like a punk band too?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. I've heard DC had a crazy punk scene. Is it still popping, or is it kind of a thing of the past?
It's pretty big right now. In fact, I'll do a little promo shout out to my friend Farah Skyke. She has a show at Transformer, and it's basically of all kind of current punk bands from, I'm going to say 2014, 2015 to today. So I was kind of right before her shooting like from 2011 to 2014. And then she was shooting the same time I was too. But what she's showing at Transformer is stuff from later, more current. But there's a massive punk scene here right now. And so I saw this band. They're sort of older. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of younger bands too, but there's like a younger band. Red Death is freaking fantastic.
They were in my mind. I saw them all over my Instagram.
Yeah, they're my favorite current band. The other one that I'm really into is this band called Zealot Rip.
Okay.
But that features some kind of older people from the scene, but they're crazy good.
Red Death
too. No, well, Red Death's crazy good, and Zealot Rip is really good. And then there's other ones too. I'll go to some of those shows occasionally, but not as much as I used to when I was shooting for that project that I was doing.
Yeah.
And that project really was more of a personal project because I was shooting it from because when I was going to shows when I was like 15, 16 years old, they were just downright scary in D.C.
D.C. was a scary place, dude.
Yeah, back then.
Not that I know, but from what I've heard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was definitely especially at that age. And then you go to these shows where like it was just mayhem. But everything was like kind of, I recall just this kind of, violent slam dancing, just crazy, real, problem kids and just all of this stuff going down. And it was and I just remember it like this kind of like hurricane or tornado. And it's just like, it was just chaotic. And I wanted to actually go back and photograph that, which I couldn't, but I was like, how can I recreate that? And I wanted to do it in terms of like, how would I make that kind of a vivid memory or recollection. And that's where the black and white came in. And for a lot of that stuff, I did shutter drag on my flash to kind of create energy and action.
Ooh.
And and all that stuff, came together in a book. So that's kind of how I approached that.
It's interesting that DC would have such a thriving punk scene.
Yeah, so there's coming up in April, there will be the Damaged City Fest, which has bands from all over the world. I believe some of it will happen at the Black Cat.
They didn't.
No longer the Pinch. That's no longer there anymore. But
was it Bad Brains that came from DC or Minor Threat or one of those big bands?
Yeah, both of them.
Oh shit! All right, that's what's
damn.
up.
I'm doing a podcast here in Washington D.C. How long have you lived in D.C.?
Well, I've never been in touch with the punk community. That's the thing.
Are you from here?
I'm from Northern Virginia. Grew up in this area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I grew up in.
And
high
how
school.
old are you?
I'm 29.
29. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up taking the freaking metro to 9:30 club and getting off at 9:30 club in high school and going to go see some hardcore bands back then. And U Street was not what it is now back then. So I remember thinking about it back then. I'm like, Jesus, I can't believe I did that. But even then, I still wasn't much of a punk guy.
Yeah,
it was more of like a hardcore, and then that evolved into dance and EDM and shit like that. So
yeah.
Can't keep track of all the subcultures. But if there's one thing I know is that DC has a crazy influence on like the punk rock community.
Well, it has a crazy influence on the punk on the world, really. Minor Threat and Bad Brains, bands like Rites of Spring, changed people's perceptions of punk all around the world. Wow. Fugazi,
yeah, definitely.
So, Bad Brains was like, here you have, 4 Rastafarians playing hardcore music. That was kind of just crazy in of itself,
Is that like a DC specific thing? Like, do you think it's because of the political nature of DC that it spawned such a crazy punk scene, or what do you think that is?
I don't know. That question's really not for me because I wasn't really here at the beginning. Like, okay. I've started going to shows in like 1984, where I sort of missed the Minor Threat era, but I was there for the beginning of like Fugazi and Dag Nasty and Rites of Spring and all these other critical bands and Bad Brains. I think it was just, bunch of kids doing, trying to do something different, something fun. They saw about Sex Pistols or Clash in England and whatever, and wanted to recreate that themselves. Discovered that there was a scene in LA with the Germs and X and things like that. And so, it was just kind of like this, back then, you didn't have the internet. So what you had were fanzines, and there you would learn about different scenes, and then, you'd connect with them. You'd buy records through zines, and that's how kind of the word spread. But DC was sort of, unique, where Minor Threat and Bad Brains really caught on and spread like Bad Brains like began to dominate New York, and and Minor Threat, you know, did great everywhere, especially California. And it's just like, and all of a sudden it's like you got all these great bands, and then, you know, Ian MacKaye, you know, started Discord, and Jeff Nelson started Discord Records, and they were putting out their own stuff, which was kind of revolutionary at that time, DIY.
Yeah.
And, you know, and that also added to this whole mystique, and then add to it, like, you know, $5 shows and all of that sort of stuff. All of a sudden it kind of, you know, became this thing that influenced stuff all over the world.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so surprised and somewhat shocked that you say it's still so thriving, because as someone who I feel like I'm in these streets, like in these art streets, that at no point do I have much contact with the punk scene, or even hear about it, or even get a whiff
Yeah, but
of
you'll run it. There's a lot of punk rock artists that, you know, you know, it's not. Yeah, I mean, but you know, if you keep your ears to the ground, like for example, you telling me about this, you know, EDM warehouse thing, which is like really has me intrigued, and I want to go seek it out. But you know, it's just like,
yeah,
you know, and I just told you about Damage City Fest. So if you Google Damage City Fest, you'll see that they have an amazing lineup this year. I mean, I don't even know most of the bands, but I do recognize a bunch of them on there, and it's just like, this is going to be awesome. And then you'll have people fly from all over the world, and bands from all over the world playing here.
That sounds fun. Damage City Fest. I'm trying to remember that. When's that coming up?
That's in April.
Okay.
I mean, I can look it up exactly, but
yeah, no worries, man. Don't worry about that when we get to it. But dude, so do you have any big shows or anything coming up? Like, I mean, you said you're pushing out these books.
So my goal this year is to produce 4 of these, starting with Gratuity Included, coming out in March. And they're all going to be like this red film that's on it. This has been a real challenge to find a printer that will actually print and bind.
Yeah, that's a nice looking
this sort of thing. I mean, this is just like a Xerox job, but it'll be done really well with you know, high quality paper and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, okay. I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's going to be like a real thing. But I plan to do 4 of those in limited editions of 150 each, and after those sell out, they won't have these special features. Yeah, they won't. It'll just be more like that, you know. No red film anywhere in it. So the next one will be Leather Boys, which is a lot of that gay BDSM scene photos. And then after that, it'll be something all in color.
Whoa.
And that's going to be all from this town in Romania called Vama Veche, which is on the border of Romania and Bulgaria. And there, it's a crazy party town on the Black Sea, and it's fantastic. And it lends itself to shooting color there.
I actually saw some of your work from that. It was like it's a beach out there on the sea. I saw a little bit of that.
Yeah. So I have a series of that, but that's the tame. That's the tame one.
Man, I'm so envious of these crazy situations you get into. Like, this is the stuff that like photographers like dream of being in these fringe cultures. And you're a part of it, and you're just enjoying it. It's non-judgmental.
Yeah. So Vama Veche, just to give you an idea of what makes it kind of so special, is that during the times of Ceausescu, who was the communist dictator. This was the one place that sort of escaped the tentacles of the communist regime then, where the police really wouldn't mess with anybody. So it was originally like in the 60s and 70s, it was kind of like this hippie commune where there were fishermen, you know, it was a bunch of nudists and people playing guitar and just the local fishermen. And then just over time, like when communism fell, and then you had kind of globalization, they wanted to monetize all this awesome Black Sea beachfront property. This town was like, no way, we're not doing that.
Oh, whoa.
And we don't want any hotels or any chain restaurants or any of that. And as a result, that kind of got it a little more popular for kind of like the outsiders and the rebels and this and that.
I see.
And then so now, I mean, it's changing now because I've been there like 3 years now, and you can see the change in 3 years. But it's basically you have thousands of people that go there, and there's no place for them to stay, so they're all camping out in campers and tents. And then you have DJs on the beach that just go all night long.
That sounds so sick.
And it's like, you know, clothing is basically optional.
How'd you find out about that?
There's a photo fest that happens there. And so I was invited as a guest to give a talk and do a workshop. And actually this year, I plan to do a workshop in August. It'll start off in Bucharest, which is the capital of Romania, and then go to Transylvania, and then end up in Vama Veche, where this year they're not really doing their full photo fest. It's kind of like they're kind of rebranding it, but they're doing something small. But that'll actually be perfect. And I'm just thinking, like, get 6, 8, 10 people. Go out there. I already got a driver and a van and all that stuff. I haven't announced that. I'm announcing it right now that we're doing this. But yeah, that'll be really kind of cool because I know a lot of good people over there, and we'll be taken care of, and it's fantastic.
Shit, sign me up, dude.
So there you go. Yeah, it'll be third week in August.
Wow, dude, that's exciting, man. Dude, I can't wait to get my hands on these books, man. They're really good.
Yeah. Oh, and then the last one will be basically about that whole night with look for that Low Cut Connie video. So yeah, a lot of those photos that are not in the video, and then Adam the singer, I'm going to have him write something about that night. That night was just total. It was amazing that it happened and we were able to document it like that.
Does it feel like a movie when you think about it? Like it kind of feels like it wasn't real or something?
Yeah, it was just crazy, man. It was just like it's like, basically it was all left for me to cook up this whole idea. They said we want it to be raw and crazy, and I said, well, I don't know anybody in Philly. I'm going there as a total stranger. Like, how do I create this whole party atmosphere out of like nothing? And so that's basically, I had the band invite people, members of the band. They didn't announce it, I don't think, on stage, but they just told friends. It was just like, yeah, Holiday Inn Express.
Chris Michael, I mean, I'm so fascinated with you and your work. I wish I didn't have to wrap this show up because.
So what time is it? Your shows go forever.
I mean, I like to do it as long as I can. I could talk to you forever, but the thing is, the guy whose studio this is, I gotta be out of
we've been here
6.
for quite a bit of time.
Yeah, an hour and a half.
But it's only felt like 15 minutes.
I know, dude. I mean, your stories are so incredible, and like you have so much depth to everything you've experienced. It's like I feel like I haven't gotten enough. Like I'm sitting here just so entertained. Like I can't believe.
Oh, I have a question. Can I ask you a quick question?
Please, yeah, man. Please.
So so I listened to the podcast with Marta. I thought was great.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know who she is, but I really enjoyed that one. And then you had that guy, Ian Callender guy on, which I thought was pretty interesting. But during the Ian Callender one, you were talking about the art event that you did, which I think was at the same place.
The Cheshire.
Yeah, the Cheshire. I almost went to that.
Why didn't you go to my show, man?
Something else came up that night, and I think I hung out with a friend and went and did something else.
Yeah.
Because I didn't I know who any of the artists were or anything. But what intrigued me the most, you and Ian were talking about sponsors, and you got Illegal Mezcal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a score because Mezcal is one of my favorite things.
Dude, if you would want, you would have gotten fucked up off Mezcal because literally he was giving out shots all night.
Yeah, I'm sure I would have.
He completely crushed our bar sales, but everyone had a great time, and I was like, oh, that's fine with me.
But that was the first time I'd seen an event sponsored, with a Mezcal company, and I thought that was pretty awesome. And I wanted to go to it. I had no idea who you guys were, but I was like, you know what, man, it's got to be cool. They got a Mezcal sponsor.
Note taken. I need to work with them again, and I hope to work with them again.
So, but yeah, I want to I've checked out your stuff online. A lot of your fashion stuff is really dope. I liked it.
Thank you.
And then I'm also, curious about these kind of art show things that you've been doing and sort of, I guess, the community run-in. So, and the fact you're doing this podcast and you know what you're doing with audio is a real big plus.
Yeah, dude, I mean, it's all about having sweet audio because if it's an audio-based format, even though the video for me is the most important part, it's like...
Why is it the most important part?
Because YouTube.
Where do you get more listens from?
YouTube.
Than from iTunes? Or podcast
This
app?
podcast is on every audio platform.
Yeah, but have you looked at your stats?
They're probably not as good as I've seen, and they're actually pretty good stats. But for me, the YouTube is more important because I can take this interview and I could take a 5-minute clip. I could take 4 of those,
sure,
and I could make 5 separate videos. If it was just audio, I have 1 clip. But with the YouTube,
well, yeah, you don't have you can't do
and I can monetize on YouTube.
Reel. But you can monetize on podcasting too. The reason why I say this is because I do podcasts as well, as we discussed probably before this started. I find that it's So one of the shows that I work on that I'm not going to name, we get 20 to 30,000 downloads per episode. It's also on YouTube. And now this is through like iTunes, Android, whatever, Stitcher, all that, Spotify, all that stuff. YouTube, lucky to get 200.
Yeah.
So it's, for something like this length, like for me, it's like when I've listened to your show, I'm like at the gym or I went for a run. But trying to watch an hour and a half of this on YouTube is distracting.
The strategy is, if I do these clips, then I pull them into the full interview. Like,
sure.
That's like the YouTube strategy for podcasts is you do the full podcast, which is great, but you find the interesting clips and you give those their own thumbnails and stuff, and that either is its own piece of content.
So you find just a little gem that will make somebody laugh or,
like there's like 1,000 things you said that I could clip out because you have so many amazing stories.
Hear the remix.
Yeah. No, I don't edit this shit, but like that pulls them into the ecosystem. And like, sure, the audio plays are good and that's all well and everything, but YouTube growth is a lot more measurable and it's a lot more tangible. And having a giant audience on YouTube is so important. And
it is. I just found that in the podcasting and YouTube are like two totally different beasts.
Oh my God, yes. So it's so nuts trying to do it all, man.
Yeah.
But I love it and I enjoy it. And like, yeah, I mean, I've been doing these shows because now that I'm like, I have this platform of this podcast and I talk to all these artists like you and everyone else. Now it's like I have this event thing that's still under That's the Angle that I can now take you guys or whoever else and just do an art show.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically creating a community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm
so
trying to create like a media
so that's
company.
what it's about. I mean, it's not so much networking is cool, but actually creating a community is cooler.
Exactly.
And community of people that respect each other, and then you never know what might happen with that. And with networking, it's cool. You meet somebody, but then it usually will fizzle out. But 10 years from now, you might be like, oh yeah, that guy Chris, man, I'm actually doing an all photo show now. Let me call him up. Or you know what I'm saying?
Well,
but it's
that's 100% what it is.
Yeah.
Is because I do have projects like that in the work. Like I'm talking with this local magazine and they're going to be doing this huge photo competition in like April, May.
Mm-hmm.
And if your name doesn't come up, I'm going to be pissed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well,
and it's stuff like that. But it's like, yeah, it's like now I can kind of combine all of these worlds. And in my mind, I don't see it as networking. I see it as I get the honor of talking to someone like you who I find extremely interesting, whose work I enjoy, who other people who I can look at from afar, but then pull them in and be like, so what's going on?
Yeah.
And I love that aspect and the fact that, I don't know, this might have helped someone. Like someone now might be more encouraged to go and shoot that party or go to do that or whatever it might be. I love that DM.
Yeah.
But then also there's also the side of where I'm like, I'm trying to build a really fucking big media company here. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's that part too. So it's
but it goes hand in hand, and I call that it's respectable, man. You're trying to build a scene, really. So that's very cool,
dude. Thank you, man, Chris.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed every moment here, and I hope to have you on in the future, like 100%.
All right, cool.
If you're down, if you don't look at this podcast and you're like,
I am
fuck
down.
That guy. All right, guys. Well, that's it. Please check out his stuff, and that's it with me.
Look in the show notes, right, for the links.
Yeah, that'll be there. His Instagram will be there for sure. Your Instagram will always be there.
Cool.
Everything else, not guaranteed. But that's it. That's the angle. Peace out, guys.
All right, later.